Conservation easement agreements. So what are they? In this video, I'm only going to do a really quick overview of what a conservation easement agreement is, just because I could go into a lot of depth and I don't want to make this video way too long. What I will do though is I'll commit to doing future videos so that we'll drill down in very specific areas. For now, this is just the overview. A conservation easement is a restrictive covenant. So it's something that is placed on title of the property and it will run in perpetuity. So this is kind of the best of both worlds for some landowners. They want to see the property protected, and yet they do not want to give the property away or sell the property, whether it's the whole property or in part. In this way, they get to keep the property, but they've restricted it on title so that they know future landowners of their property are going to be encumbered by those restrictions. So what are typical restrictions? No subdividing, no aggregate extraction, no deforestation that's outside of good forestry practices, and these things can be detailed in much more legalese than what I'm saying, but you get the idea. Those are typical types of restrictions. Now the list of restrictions can go to be very long, but I would caution you to take on restrictions that you are not willing or likely to enforce, just because it weakens the strength of the easement agreement. So if ever you need to take a landowner in the future who's doing something adverse to the easement, take them to court, you need to have a very strong document. And if you've been taking on too many things that are very unlikely to enforce, then it weakens your position. I would want to drill down in a future video on that in particular, but I hope you get the understanding for now. So it's a restrictive covenant on title. It is, as I said, placed in perpetuity and will run forever. So any future landowner is encumbered by this. Land trusts and conservation organizations and agencies will take these on either willingly or just because the landowner wished it over any of the other land securement tools. Now, truth be known, conservation easement agreements are not my favorite land securement tool. I'm not saying they're good or bad, they're just not my favorite, just because I think it's a lot safer to have your group own the property and not have the future problems that could occur with stewardship of a property that isn't yours. Yes, it's enforceable, and yes, you'll have all the backing of that conservation easement agreement to make sure it is enforceable, but it's still a stewardship issue. So some land trusts like to take conservation easements on because they think it's cheaper, and it is at the outset, but I do question the long term of a conservation easement agreement with regards to stewardship cost. Now, as I said, I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That is a great tool, but I use it as more of a last resort with a landowner, one of the last resorts. I much prefer a partial taking or a life interest agreement, and I've addressed those in other videos. So if you do need to find out what I'm talking about in that regard with those conservation examples of land securement, watch the other videos and I'll go into more detail. Now, some of you may feel you want to comment on my statement. If it was a little too brash for you, then please feel free. I'm not going to be hurt by it. And I'd like to get your feedback. Maybe there's something I've overlooked. But certainly, if a landowner's preference is to do it, I can fully understand why an organization would want to do it. If it's the land trust's preference to do it that way, or the conservation agency's preference to do it that way, I would only question it because I think there's a safer and more secure way. If it's with regards to purchasing an easement, I get that. If you're going to purchase an easement because the landowner is not willing to gift it, then I can understand doing that over purchasing the property because it would be a lot cheaper for the land trust to do that. But when it comes to gifting them, I would rather gently sway the landowner to one of the other options that is quite possibly something the landowner could consider, but hasn't been really delved into in enough detail. Anyway, that's my take on it. As I said, I'm going to do more videos. Please feel free to contact us. The contact information, as always, is below. Go through the website, you'll find our emails, and just ask whatever you want to see on the next video. Thank you.